Om. Om. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trilokyam Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Chapita, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha, Tvameva Vedyat Ravindam, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So we are still making our way through chapter 3. Mark, what verse are we on?
We're starting number 14 tonight.
Number 14. And Ganesh is going to be our chanter this evening. Chapter 3, verse 14. Will you help us out, please?
Yeah. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyadanna sambhavah yajñad bhavati parjanyo yajñah karma samudbhava. From food come forth beings, from rain food is produced, from sacrifice arises rain, and sacrifice is born of action.
So the idea here is this is a very ancient idea that when Brahmins perform yajna, these Vedic sacrifices, this is what orders the world and the universe. So the rain brings forth food, and the sacrifices are done by the Brahmins, and this is what makes the world go. But the deeper meaning of it is this. So last week we talked about how a deva is a presiding principle over a field of human endeavor. And when we work well, without attachment, doing our study and our commitment to our job, etc., this is the propitiation of that particular deity. And then the deity blesses us. This is the deeper meaning of food. So the idea is we make our living, we're able to buy the necessities of life, we're able to provide for the people around us who depend upon us. All of this is made possible through work. And here the deeper understanding of work is act in the world. How? According to our swadharma, inherent latent proclivities, in the yajna spirit of sacrifice. You have a new employer, God. You've got new customers, God. The people that you're serving, God. Renouncing our attachment to the fruits of action. But he says, in this frame, this is what makes the world keep working. Next verse.
Karma brahmodbhavam vidhi brahma rakshasam tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam yagne pratishtitam. Know you that action comes from Brahmaji, the creator, and Brahmaji comes from the imperishable. Therefore, the all-pervading Brahman, the God principle, ever rests in sacrifice.
So, where is the locus of Maya? This Maya Shakti. We went to hear Jai Uttal in his show last night at Freight and Salvage. And he talked a lot about Shiva ever wedded to Shakti, Krishna ever wedded to Radha, Rama and Sita. So many times we have this divine couple. And this is something not only that's inherent in all of us, no matter what kind of gender we've been born into. Yoga looks at us all as a divine androgen. But cosmically, Brahman is eternal. But the Maya is co-eternal with the infinite. And in this Leela, this play, in this pratibimba, this reflection that is the world, all of it moves through this deeper understanding of sacrifice. And it's interesting how everything sacrifices. I was watching on YouTube about octopi. And the female octopus, after she lays all her eggs, then she dies. Those of you who seen, I think is it the salmon that move upstream, they go back to the place where they were spawned. And then after they spawn, they too die. They sacrifice. And even you and I were born into this world. We get a particular kind of training and education. We live our lives. We accomplish what it is that we're here to accomplish according to our prarabdha karma. And then when our job is finished, nobody stays a minute too long or leaves a minute too early. We die. This constant cycle of life. All of it's based in this idea of yajna, sacrifice. Next verse. I think you're muted.
Just finding the verse. Evam pravartitam chakram nanuvartayati haya aghayurindriya ramo mogham parthat sajivati. He who does not follow here the wheel thus set revolving is of a sinful life, rejoicing in the senses. He lives in vain, O son of Pritha.
Yes. So the person who, rather than endeavoring to have a purpose-driven life, to make a contribution, to make a difference in the world, it can be something very apparently small, or it may be given you to do something big and significant. But if, on the other hand, we're bhogis, who practice bhoga, enjoyment, meaning I act in the world only for my own selfish needs and wants. And it's what can I get out of life? That person verily eats sin, he says, but the deeper understanding of the problem is this grossifies the mind. It deepens our vasanas, and in the end, makes us very unhappy. It's not in the end a successful and fruitful way to live. All we have to do is look at all the trust fund kids and the celebrities who live a life of self-indulgence, addiction, all that. They crash and burn, so many of them. So it's all about me. That's not that there's any God up there that's going to punish us, but it's just an unsuccessful, unsatisfying way to live. So the yogi wants to be happy. She acts in the world in a way that reduces the number of desires entertained. She practices karma yoga to exhaust her existing vasanas without creating new ones. The bhogi also wants happiness, but he acts in the world from the viewpoint of, I'm going to try to satisfy as many desires as possible. And it's simply like pouring fuel on a fire. What do we get? More craving, more desire. Kathopanishad says 2 paths approach a person: Shreyas and Preyas. Preyas means what's dear to me, Priya. What's pleasurable. Shreyas means the good. The intelligent person follows the path of the good. As now we're beginning to get it laid out in Gita. The foolish person follows prayas, more, better, different, gimme, 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 which is never satisfying. Next verse.
Yastvat maratireva syat atmatriptascha manava atmanyeva cha santushta tasya karyam na vidyate. But the man who rejoices only in the self, who is satisfied with the self, who is content in the self alone, for him verily there's nothing more to be done.
So, what we need to understand is what is the end point of this process of karma yoga. The idea here is that the essence of my bondage, the essence of my ignorance, is my vasana bundle. And we've talked about this, how vasanas have a twofold power. The first is veiling, and the second is projecting. Avarana Shakti, Vikshepa Shakti. And we have all these desires, all these impulses, and you can't flip them off like a light switch. They need to be dealt with. And in the early stages, it is not necessarily the best course of action to try to get rid of all your objects of desire. In the last chapter, Krishna has said the person who gets rid of the objects of desire but has the desire remain behind is verily a hypocrite. But their desire leaves them upon seeing the Supreme. So in the beginning, when the mind has an enormous amount of vasana pressure, trying to sit in meditation and practice self-inquiry is really hard. So we act in a way to empty the vessel out, exhaust those vasanas. And then, when the mind becomes more serene, contemplation, this introversion of the mind, becomes more fruitful. So it's not active life or interior life. They're not in tension, they're not contradictory. It's a sequential process. First, the karma yoga, then self-inquiry. And later on, when we get the chapter on bhakti yoga, that's another preparatory practice. Open the heart. But here Krishna is saying the culmination of this is Atmaramana, the capacity of the yogi to be indifferent to the worldly joys and sorrows. They go on. Not about being insensible. But the yogi who can revel in the self, who's satisfied in the self, has a different playground. This is what the Master Jesus meant when he says, a peace that passes all understanding. My kingdom is not of this world. I'm in the world, but not of. Next verse.
Naiva tasya kritenartho na kritenah kaschana na chasya sarva bhuteshu kaschidartha vyapashraya. For him there is here no interest whatever in what is done or what is not done, nor does he depend upon any being for any object.
Yes. So, whether or not you get the promotion or don't get the promotion, whether you get this particular job or you don't, the yogi starts to dial down that dependence on externals. You just see the world for what it is, fundamentally impermanent. When the situation is conducive, the mind goes yummy, yummy, yummy. When the situation is non-conducive, wah, wah, wah. Don't get involved with it. Stand back as the unattached witness of it. And in time, that reactivity starts to lessen more and I like to use the idea, see the world like a movie. It can be a romance novel. It can be a horror film. It can be an action thriller. But it's just a movie. It never touches you. The yogi begins to live in what the Raja yogis call Ishvara Pranidhana, trustful surrender to God. We turn our will, we turn our lives over to God's care. It's all working out just as it should. What do? Stay detached, keep my heart open, act. Try to make things a little better. But don't be attached. And the more we let go of the world, the easier it is to revel in the self. First, intense activity, karma yoga. And the culmination of it is when the mind easily starts to turn in. And in terms of the world, there is no more fruitful meditation than to watch our minds. What's it feel like to want something I don't have? It sucks. Yoga says there's no other suffering. There's raga. I want it to be this way. Dvesha. I can't stand it. I want it not to be that way. Bhaya, fear. I'm afraid I'm going to lose what I have, or I'm not going to get what I want living in the future. Make friends. Own our dukkha, our suffering. You've heard me say it's a spiritual axiom that if I'm disturbed, no matter the cause, I'm the one with the klesha, the affliction, the defilement. It's never out there. My klesha is an attachment, an expectation, an identification, some control issue. And then own our ananda. Desire and object of desire become one. Vishaya ananda. The bliss we get through the objects of the senses. It's really a taste of the mind abiding in the self, just for a moment. Always taste the same. Both happiness, joy, satisfaction. It varies in intensity and duration depending on how badly I wanted the object and how completely it satisfied me. But it's soon gone. It is a mediated experience of the self through a medium, the objects of the senses. Why not go for the source? Let go of the world. Let the mind abide in the self. So you got to watch your mind. And when happiness happens, notice, oh, that's a taste of myself. Oh, that's my mind coming home. That stopped my mind. Own your ananda. Don't let the world or your mind fool you into thinking it's in the objects or the people or the job. The world isn't bad, but it is shunyata. It's inherently neutral. It has no inherent good or negative value. It's all what my mind attributes to it. So this Sakshi Bhava is so important. And it's through the insight from this practice that allows us to start to let go. Any thoughts or questions about this? Next verse.
तस्मादसक्त सततं कार्यं कर्म समाचर असक्तो ह्याचरन् कर्म परमाप्नोति पुरुष. Therefore, always perform actions which should be done without attachment. For by performing action without attachment, man attains the supreme.
Yes. So we act according to the karmic situation that we've been placed in. You are right where you are supposed to be. If it's gnarly, that's your guru. If it's smooth and easy, result of previous practice, punya. But we are aware we are supposed to be. Every worldly experience is an opportunity to practice. If you're delayed or frustrated or your visa isn't granted or yada, yada, yada. The Lord's teaching me patience. The politics isn't the way you want it. The Lord's teaching me tolerance, acceptance. Every moment of life is an opportunity for practice. The foolish person misses it. The Lord in his compassion says, don't worry, I'll bring it around again. And the solution is really always the same. Let go and keep our hearts open. Master Jesus said, love your enemies. Even the Gentiles love their friends. I say, love your enemies. Ooh, good yoga. Good yoga. So we act. And we don't need to change the external circumstances except we want to be spiritual. Oh, it'll be so much better if I'm sitting on a mountain in the Himalayas. It might, but it might not. We have everything we need right here. If we're supposed to be in the Himalayas, that will present itself. If we're supposed to quit our job and do something else, that will become clear. We're supposed to go back to work to make a living, that will become clear too. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
कर्मणैव हि संसिद्धिम् आस्थिता जनकादयः लोकसङ्ग्रहमेवापि सम्पश्यन् कर्तुमर्हसि. Janaka and others attained perfection verily through action alone. Even with a view to protecting the masses, you should perform action.
So we have these ideal characters in the tradition. We have on the one hand little Nachiketas. He's the ideal of the sannyasi. He's only 8 years old. His father says essentially, kid, go to hell. He says, yes, father. So he goes to the palace of Yamaraj, the Lord of Death. He waits outside for 3 days, perfect renunciate. And he asks Lord Death, when a person dies, is he or isn't he? Yamaraj says, don't ask that question. Let me give you money. Let me give you power. Let me give you riches. Lots of hot sex. Nachiketa says, I'm not interested in that. I want to know. Oh, the paragon of the sannyasi, the jnana yogi. Then on the other end, we have King Janaka. King Janaka is Sita's dad. He's a king. And he was having there's several stories. This one's my favorite. So there's this big party going on at the palace. And Janaka has a little bit too much to drink. So he goes out on the veranda to kind of clear his head and sober up a bit. And these celestial beings come to him and give him the knowledge. And right there on the veranda, he does his self-inquiry. And he realizes his self-nature. And he drops into samadhi, and they always say for a muhurta, 48 minutes. Then he comes out and he says, oh, wonder of wonders. Why have I been engaged in all this foolishness, this BS, running a country and acquiring wealth and dominating my enemies and jewels and women and all this sort of stuff. Foolishness. I'm going to leave the world. And then he has the thought, is it going to be any different leaving the world? or doing my niyatam karma, my obligatory duties. If I don't rule the kingdom, somebody else is going to have to. So he stays as a king, ruling the kingdom as an enlightened sage, the true Platonic philosopher king. What better person to rule a nation than a deeply enlightened being? So he fulfilled all the functions of being a head of state. Now, my Guru Swamiji, many people said that if Swamiji hadn't become a sannyasi, he would have been Prime Minister of India. He had this karma about dealing with huge groups of people, of influencing people. But his prarabdha was to use those skills. He used to talk about India is now free. This was after independence. Now we need to free Indians. Wanted to give them the knowledge. Other sadhus would stay up in the Himalayas, live very simple, austere lives. Not Swamiji, tirelessly working for 40 years, wrote 40 books, died in the saddle. He was giving a camp in San Diego when he died. Founded hospitals and schools, microeconomies, engaged. Is everybody still online? I'm seeing only little heads all of a sudden.
Yeah, we're all there.
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm here, Jim.
But he was deeply involved in the world. But if you were with him, just silence inside. So it isn't going to be better by changing the external circumstances necessarily. Now, if you're engaged in an activity that's adharmic, like you're working for a company that's making something that's, damaging to the society or the culture, you may want to change jobs. But if you're acting according to the Dharma, you have righteous work. And most of us, unless we're trust fund kids, have to work for a living. Krishna in the last chapter said even in the maintenance of the body is not possible without work. Nothing wrong with it. It's not antithetical to knowledge. All right, next verse.
Yadyadacharati sreshta tattaddevataro janam sayat pramanam kurute lokastadanuvartate. Whatever a great man does, the other men also do imitate. Whatever he sets up as the standard, that the people follow.
Now, this is an interesting point. So people who are in the public eye, like the Queen of England or the President of the United States or the Prime Minister, they have to watch what they say and do in public. There's always a camera and a microphone on. What Krishna is suggesting here, live your life as if what you say and what you do is important. Because it is. It isn't that you wait to have something of value to give to the world, and then you become mindful of your actions and speech. No. Start by being mindful of your actions and your speech. See what happens. Don't be a gossip. Don't spew negativity. In the workplace, how do you become a leader? You start by acting and speaking in a noble way. Always. And you'll find that your position in the world is likely to change. So this is not a teaching just for generals like Arjuna, or presidents or princes or prime ministers and stuff like that, or celebrities. This is for all of us. We're invited to live our lives as if our life makes a difference. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
न मे पार्थास्ति कर्तव्यं त्रिषु लोकेषु किंचन नानवाप्तमवाप्तव्यं वर्त एव च कर्मणि. There is nothing in the three worlds, O Partha, that has to be done by me, nor is there anything unattained that should be attained by me. Yet I engage myself in action.
So we can look at this in many levels. So as an avatar, Lord Krishna acted in the world, even though from a personal standpoint, I don't know if you can say Krishna had a personal standpoint, he had it all. He was in a full state of yoga all the time. There's nothing he needed to do personally. Yet he fulfilled his duty in the world. He lived his mission, his vocation, his ministry. So also for you and me. Even when knowledge dawns on the mind, doesn't mean we stop working. We still have a purpose-driven life. What's my purpose? Make a difference. Think globally, but act locally. Make every action, every interaction be an expression of grace. Do good. Be good. Without any attachment to the result. Even if people revile you. And from a cosmic level, the Lord has no need to issue forth this cosmos. People keep trying to attribute anthropomorphic qualities to the infinite. Oh, God created people because he was lonely. Oh, it's all God sporting. He was bored, so he wanted to sport. That's just the nature of the infinite for all this to take place. It just is. Even though the infinite needs and what we begin to discover is a way of working in the world that's not neediness oriented. I had a student who was a percussionist, and he was taking some taiko drum lessons. I just love this story. And taiko is a Japanese drumming style. And the taiko master said, you need to practice your taiko drumming until you can drum like a child. So you watch a little 4-year-old there in the kitchen. He's opened up the cupboards and he's pulled out all the pots and pans and turned them upside down and has wooden spoons, just he's having a blast banging on stuff. He's not doing it for a paycheck. He's not doing it to impress mommy. He's not doing it because it makes him a better baby. It's fun. This is how we're designed to work. Play is the highest form of work, and work should be the highest form of play. When I went to this show last night, Jai Uttal, oh, he was good. And towards the end of the concert, it was really cooking. It was a full house and they were really responsive. The musicians were so in sync and in tune. And he was saying, oh, this is so much fun. Yeah, that's how we're designed to live. Which is very different than people who are on a hustle, whose goal is to acquire stuff. Thy right is to work alone, never to its fruits. Next verse.
यदि ह्यह्यं न वर्तेयं जातु कर्मण्यतन्द्रितः मम वर्तमानुवर्तन्ते मम वर्त्मानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्याः पार्थ सर्वशः. For should I not ever engage myself in action without relaxation, men would in every way follow my path, O son of Pritha.
So if Krishna, this avatar, this divine incarnation of God, if he were to stop acting, other people would say, oh, the blessed Lord isn't acting. I think I'll take a day off too. And the idea here is many of us may have worked for or with bureaucracies where people want a job where you don't have to work and you can't get fired. You know, it's tragic that we have so much of that. And it's not just in the United States, it's in many, many countries. In bureaucracies, we get this mindset that develops. The idea is to do as little as possible and get as much as you can. And if you need to cut corners and cheat, you're smart if you don't get caught. And that's very different than those who could work in the world with a purpose-driven life. I'm going to take a risk, do something that I think is of value and important and enjoyable. Again, you should love what you do. What if I'm stuck in a job that I really don't like? What do I do, Jim? Well, you can, first of all, understand that you have a spiritual right to work at something you love. But if right now where you are, you cannot do what you love, we start by endeavoring to love what we're doing. Find ways where you can acknowledge value, have gratitude where you are. The tasks themselves may not be things that float your boat, but maybe you can be of use to the people around you. Maybe nothing more than what we call a ministry of presence, just being a good friend to people. Keep your eyes and ears open. You'll be moved where you're supposed to be. And if you think, oh, it'd be so much better if I were a rock and roll musician, that's foolishness. Your prarabdha karma will move you where you're supposed to be. Just keep acting in the world. Where you are, you're in niyatam karma. Your duties that are given to you right here, right now. Do your best. Strive for excellence. No thought for attachment to the fruits. If you're led to fluff up your resume and start shopping it about, knock yourself out. No guarantees, but why not? Understanding having a different job is not what's going to make you ultimately happy. It's a job. Next verse.
उत्सीदेयुरिमे लोका न कुर्यां कर्म चेदहं संकरस्य च कर्ता स्याम् उपहन्यामि मा प्रजा. These worlds would perish if I did not perform action. I would be the author of confusion of castes and would destroy these beings.
Yes. So here he's speaking as the cosmic Krishna. If he were not to act in the world, the worlds would be destroyed. As the dispenser of the Sanatanam Dharma, we would have the admixture of castes. Now, the exoteric meaning, we cannot get away that the Gita is Brahminical. It's written by and largely for Brahmins, although it's loved by everybody. And it's written with its own cultural and historical context of the caste system. But the deep, and people are moving away from that. But what we mean at a deeper level, we get to the fourth chapter, Krishna will say, I am the author of the fourfold caste according to guna and karma, qualities of mind and my actions, not janma, birth. But however you want to hold this, the idea here is this confusion of castes is people involved in work and activity that really chase where they don't belong. Here is a classic case of it in the Western corporate world. Does anyone out there know what the Peter principle is in corporate structure? Yes, no?
No.
The Peter principle is you advance in a corporate structure to your level of incompetence. So you start off at level A, basic worker. You're really, really good at it. So you get promoted to level B. Yeah, it's a challenge, but you're able to handle it and do it. You do pretty well. You advance to level C. Oh, God, this is really hard. You put in the 60 hours a week, you get really stressed and stuff like that. You're not having too good a time, but you're getting the work done barely. So you get promoted to level D, and it's too hard. And you can't do it. You don't have the skills. And then you get laid off. You get a PIP, a personal improvement plan. Then you get laid off. Happens all the time in corporations. People get promoted to their level of incompetency. And where they end up is doing things that they're really not suited to, just because they want the bigger paycheck and the title. Nothing wrong with making more money. A whole lot of people that I know personally are really unhappy, even though they're making $250,000 a year. Money won't buy you happiness. Other people will move into positions because of family pressure. This is what our family does. This is the family business. And you end up doing it even if you don't like it. And of course, the one that is, I think, the saddest. Someone enters into a profession because of fear. Oh, I'm going to become an accountant because that's safe. Everybody needs accounting. And you don't like it. Ah, darn it. Better you should say, I want to be a musician, and you go study, you try to become a musician, and it doesn't work. Okay, I gave it the best. Now let me try something else. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you try, it's success or failure. If you don't try, it's failure. And when I'm working with people, there's a question I will ask them oftentimes. If you were independently wealthy and had all the training and education in the world and all the contacts in the world, what would you be doing with your life? Now, many people would say, oh, I go on cruises around the world and lie on the beach in Bali and drink Mai Tais. Well, that actually gets very boring very quickly. But what those questions do is remove all the I can't, it won't be possible, etc. Have your castles in the air, but build foundations under them. That's all. You have a right to work at what you love. Now, again, that's not going to solve all the problems of existence. But if you are working in the world in a way that's in alignment with your nature, your prakriti, life's a bit easier. And in the end, you exhaust the vasanas, creating if you do it as karma yoga. Any thoughts on this?
No thoughts, but this is just something I'm contemplating a lot with my own career. So the timing of this
Who's this
conversation is very
speaking?
helpful.
And who is this?
Hi, it's Neil.
Hi, Neil.
Hello.
Okay, please go on.
No, it's just the timing of this. I've just been, I work for an alcohol company, and I've just been, trying to weigh some of the concerns about doing that. So a lot of the things that you've been speaking to tonight have given me a lot to reflect upon.
What do you do for them?
I do research, consumer research, which I really love. So that's what really continues to fire me and gets me excited. I'm a little less excited about the product itself, but to your point, you try and find things that you love and put your energy into that.
So, you can do the inventory. I love doing research. Now, is alcohol research your field of expertise? How long have you been doing it?
No, I've been doing consumer research for a long time. I've worked in a lot of other industries, so other parts of the food and beverage industry and the tech industry.
Okay, so you've got transferable skills.
Yeah.
Okay, so true story. So there's a kid I've been working with for many, many years, and he's in biotech, and he was working for this company, and I think they were making, is it Kratom?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he wasn't real keen on this, and he didn't like the culture. The guy who headed the company was very heavily into cocaine, and he would have the guy was making a lot of money, this place. And they'd go out on these these yachts, and there'd be girls and cocaine and all this sort of stuff. But like you, he was feeling like, it's just so much money, Jim. And I said, well, why are you doing this? He said, well, I just want to wait till I'm financially secure. And I said to him, you own 5 houses. What does this mean?
I love that.
In other words, his mind was telling him he still wasn't financially secure. So listen carefully, Neil. His issue, and I don't know if this is what yours is, was the fear of financial insecurity.
Yeah.
Because of the fear. And a form of fear is called greed. Greed is really a form of fear. You see that?
I do. I'm taking notes. Yeah.
Okay. So once you see that the problem is fear, then you can, what's the opposite of fear? Faith. trust that if you act according to the Dharma, you'll be taken care of.
Mm.
Now, you may not have the 7-figure income, but you'll be taken care of. I promise you that. I don't promise many things in this world.
Great. Thank you. I really appreciate this.
Oh no, this is really important stuff. But if you're working at something that you feel is adharmic, now I have nothing against alcohol. I happen to be an alcoholic in recovery. I don't drink anymore. But that doesn't mean the next guy can't enjoy it. So this is not a moral issue. I'm not judging
Right.
the
Mhm.
alcoholic beverage industry. But it's, do you feel uncomfortable in it? That's the
Yes.
question.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you do, find where you can have a purpose-driven life, where you're making a contribution with your work that's in alignment with your values.
Mm.
Act in the world. How?
Yes.
According to your swadharma, your inherent latent proclivities, but in the yajna spirit. Serve the society, renouncing your attachment to the fruits of action. And when we get later on, we'll talk about our renunciation of the sense of agency. In the end, there's nobody there doing the doing.
Mm.
Is this useful?
Very, very much so. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, next verse.
Sakta karmanya vidvamso yatha kurvanti bharata kuryat vidvams tatha sakta chikirshurloka sangraham. As the ignorant men act from attachment to action, O Bharata, so should the wise men act without attachment, wishing the welfare of the world.
Yes, there he is. So the foolish person, the ignorant person, is attached to the action and its outcomes. Am I getting an exceeds expectations on my review? Am I going to get the raise? Am I going to get the corner office? Do I get the expense account? Do I get the title? Again, there's nothing wrong with this. But if that's why you're working, and of course, the opposite part of that is I'm afraid to change. That's adharmic. But the yogi acts in the world without attachment, wishing the well-being of all. Make a contribution, however small. Serve the society. Do good. Be good. We have a responsibility as yogis to make a difference in the world, even a small one. And again, the work itself may be neutral, but the way you treat your co-workers may be why you're there. Do good. Be good. Serve the society. Wish the welfare of all beings. Good morning, God. This is Jim reporting for duty. Where do you want me to go? Who do you want me to meet? Tell me what you want me to say and keep me out of your way. A great prayer. Okay, we'll end here. What verse are we on for next week?
26.
All right. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om.